Hello, everyone, and welcome to the April edition of the Lunchtime Learning webinar series. My name is Brendan Woodruff. I'm the co-chair of the Green New York Operations and Engagement Subcommittee. And right off the bat today, I would just first say thank you for joining us, and also that I hope that you and your families are staying safe and healthy. I know there's a lot going on right now, and we appreciate the fact that you're tuning in. So from us to you, we hope you're doing well. We hope you're fending off cabin fever and have found some activities, and we hope that you're all safe and healthy. So with that being said, a couple housekeeping things before we get started today. Everybody's line is on mute. If you do have questions as we go through the webinar, please type them into the chat box. We will get to them at the end. So type them in as you think of them, and at the end, we'll go through all of the questions that we do get. In addition, this webinar is being recorded, and it will be available afterwards on the Green New York website. So if there's anything you want to go back through and see on the slides, or if you have colleagues that couldn't make it, point them to the Green New York website, and they will be able to find it there. In addition, next week is Earth Week, so we hope that everybody has at least a little bit of a celebration put together. One thing we will be doing is we're going to have a Green New York Council live stream event on Wednesday at noon. That's going to feature the leadership team from the Green New York Council that's working at the interagency level to implement sustainability practices at various agencies. And if you'd like more information on that and how you can join, we'll be answering your questions, kind of an open forum for environmental questions, whether it's state government related or personal, questions about what you can do in your own life. Mention it in the chat box, and I'll get you the link to that. So without further ado, I want to say a sincere thank you to Ty Fuller from the Suffolk County Water Authority for being here today. He's filling in on short notice as we did have some disruptions in getting this together, so we really appreciate him being here. So take it away, Ty.
Okay, thank you, Brendan. I want to thank you for allowing me to do this. Again, my name is Ty Fuller. I am the lead hydrogeologist and director of strategic initiatives at the Suffolk County Water Authority. I've been with the authority for close to 20 years, where I've been involved in, well construction projects, water conservation initiatives, and that's what we're going to talk to you all about today, is water conservation. Now, while parts of this are specific to Long Island and provide good examples, the reasons to conserve are similar everywhere. And that really centers around energy use reduction. And, you should check with your local water utilities to see if they have similar programs. But just a little about the Suffolk County Water Authority. We are an independent public benefit corporation operating under the Public Authorities Law of New York. We serve approximately 300,000 customers, of which there's 1.2 million residents. We've been in operation since 1951. And we operate on a not-for-profit basis. Our money is generated through the sale of water. And we are one of the largest suppliers of potable groundwater in the nation. Our name sometimes confuses people, the Suffolk County Water Authority. And I bring up the slide to say that we are not a branch of Suffolk County government. And also, our role as a water supplier is compliance of standards set forth by the EPA or the Department of Health. We do not create or enforce any of those drinking water standards. Now, as far as our system goes, we have a network of 586 wells at 237 well fields. This is a little different from New York City, where they get their water from reservoirs. Our network of wells is a decentralized system that serves residents in a particular area. And, we have a storage capacity from storage tanks of about 68 million gallons. Now, on average, we pump around 210 million gallons a day. Our highest usage typically occurs in the summertime, where you'll see peak pumpage of around 470 million gallons. Our record year was 2010, where we pumped almost 75 billion gallons. Now, Long Island has in total of around 50 different water districts. So collectively, they pump around 200 billion gallons a year. So this is just a map of our service territory. It encompasses most of Suffolk County. On these green dots that you see all around are the various well fields. And the 8 stars are the various offices that we have throughout the island to service residents within those areas. So, again, like I said, our water comes from groundwater, and that's, different from New York City, It comes from the Long Island aquifers, and these are underground sand or gravel formations that store and yield significant quantities of water. Now, the water itself is found in the void spaces between the sand and the gravel. So the water in the aquifer acts like a sponge, an underground sponge filled with water. On Long Island, there are three major aquifers: the Upper Glacial, the Magathie, and the Lloyd. And I just want to point out the Lloyd to say that there has been a moratorium against constructing new wells. The water there is thousands of years old, and it's being protected and preserved for future generations. So, as water suppliers, our understanding of our system has changed over time, from one of facilities management to one of resource management. So historically, Long Island was an area that experienced rapid growth, when you consider the post-war period. So our concern was more wells, more systems to try to keep up with this ever-increasing demand. And now, our focus is more on resource management. We understand that the aquifer is a sensitive system. So in order to properly manage it, you need to make proper plans. You need to have groundwater studies in order. You need to understand the relationship between the effect of pumping that water versus the negative effect of water quality. And more importantly, protecting water at its source. The source water protection is a key component of what we do. So in terms of protecting and preserving this aquifer supply, the DEC back in 2017, they reached out to all the water suppliers and said that we expect you all to reduce your peak season water demand by 15% over the next 3 to 4 years. And the figure that they used was 2012. They considered that an average year for all water suppliers. So they said, based on those numbers, we'd like to see a reduction of around 15%. And what they require of us now is every year we have to submit a reporting form that, documents, what we've done successfully in terms of conservation over the past year, and also any long-term goals that we have in place. So the reason why this came about was in 1986, a groundwater management plan was created on Long Island that established safe yields for pumpage for both Nassau and Suffolk counties. And again, it is outdated and it needs to be updated. So the New York State DEC is currently working with the United States Geologic Survey to fund a groundwater sustainability study. That's actually currently in place. And from that study, new safe yields will be completed. But still, that 15% reduction that they're talking about, it will help achieve those safe yields that were put forth within that 1986 plan. Because what we've seen is recently we have breached that yield, through pumpage within Nassau and Suffolk County. And the fact is, we are on an island. We are surrounded by seawater bodies, the Atlantic Ocean to the south, the Long Island Sound to the north. So there's always a potential for seawater intrusion to affect that aquifer supply. And also, reducing our carbon footprint. These wells consume a lot of energy, and it has a negative impact. So we need to reduce the infrastructure for that demand. Now, for the Suffolk County Water Authority, our vision for conservation, really preceded some of the DEC's efforts. We had a conservation plan in place from 1989, but we decided to update that in 2011 just to have a more direct, real-world approach to things. So we wanted to focus on the economy of water conservation. What does that mean in terms of energy savings? We wanted to target our infrastructure improvements, things like metering, having smart meters that can properly track water usage amongst our customers. And also the prudent use of treated water. The fact is our biggest demand for water is irrigation. And, with this water we're supplying, it's treated to the highest of drinking water standards only to be dumped on people's lawns. We wanted to have a way to address those concerns. So within that conservation plan that SCWA created, we had language in there where we focused on creating a regional group to address these water quality concerns. Again, there are 50 different water districts on Long Island. So we played a key role in creating an organization called the Long Island Commission for Aquifer Protection, and I'll discuss that a little later. We work with the United States Geologic Survey on hydrologic maintenance programs, to monitor the system. And I highlight that in red because I'll discuss that in a moment. We've partnered with local businesses for conservation efforts, and really important, the public outreach, reaching out to civic groups and local governments for our conservation efforts. So the USGS, they play a key role in all of this. To understand the system, you have to have a way to properly monitor it. So through our cooperative agreement with the United States Geologic Survey, we fund them, and they have a network of wells all throughout the island, that can monitor water levels, that have historical trends. The great thing about this information is available online for the public to view and use. It is very useful for water suppliers because of those trends and statistical analysis. We can see areas that are impacted by droughts, and we can adjust our operations accordingly. But going back to the conservation plan with the Suffolk County Water Authority, a couple other things that we wanted to incorporate is water loss controls. The EPA did have some literature available so that we could look for unaccounted for water losses within our systems. I mentioned already the metering. We wanted to make sure that we had, smart meters that could, properly track water usage amongst our consumers. And we needed to target the highest water users because the fact is that there is an unequal distribution in how water is consumed on the island amongst our consumers. So, I pointed out that irrigation is the biggest demand in our system. And the fact is that the majority of the pumpage, around 70%, occurs between May and September. And those fluctuations you're looking at are different demands that occur between summer peak, summer rain peak, or the winter time. And then that it all changes. It's something that we call the irrigation situation. So this map here, what it's showing is pumpage that occurs over several days during certain times of the year. So the lower one in blue, that's wintertime, and the one that's in orange and red is the summertime. Now I'm showing a dotted line because what that represents is 5 a.m. on a typical day. So if you look at the wintertime usage, at 5 a.m., most people are asleep, very little water usage. If you compare that to the summertime, 5 a.m., that same time, you're talking about close to a 20-fold increase in water usage. Why is that? Because of irrigation systems. People have these irrigation timers that go on overnight that spikes that demand. Even during rainy days, when you don't need water, those systems are still running, creating unnecessary demand in our system. The fact is, to have a network of 600 wells and 2/3 of those are only needed for summertime irrigation, that's why we call it the irrigation situation. And this is just closely looking at what occurs during pumpage overnight. Now, those two red sections, they're around midnight, the first one, and the second one is 6 a.m. And that's where that peak demand occurs for us. As these irrigation timers start to kick on overnight, it creates more demand in our system to the point where, you're around 5, 6 a.m., where now, our system is pumping close to 500,000 gallons a minute just to meet with that demand. And that is a serious situation for our system because all of our wells are in operation, our tank levels are dropping, pressure is dropping in the system, and it's a concern year over year. And, meeting that peak surge is always a concern for us. So for our residents, the question always comes up, why should they conserve? The fact is, Long Island does have a significant supply of water. Estimates have said that Long Island has around 65 trillion gallons of water in the aquifer system. But, keep in mind only about 5 to 10% can be extracted from the aquifers. That's about 6.5 trillion gallons. Long Island uses around 200 billion gallons a year. About 300 billion comes recharged back in through rainfall. But this is not a uniform system. There are certain areas on the island that only have fresh water available at shallow depths. So that makes them more sensitive to these pumpage impacts, and it can result in seawater intrusion. Also, the higher water usage results in more infrastructure, which means more costs passed on to customers. A huge concern that we have is the impacts of this increased pumpage on water pressure. More pumpage lowers the pressure, which can affect fire flow protection, and that's always a major concern for us. And as I brought up before, this overpumpage on this island can have negative water quality impacts. So these are all things that, we're focused on with conservation. So on average, our customers use around 130,000 gallons a year. If you compare that to some of our largest users, we have users that use, and these are homes that use up to 22 million gallons. And this is through either a combination of irrigation systems or geothermal systems. A unique situation that we have here is you have some residents that instead of just using a well from the aquifer, they're using public supply water that's treated, for their irrigation systems because they consider it a cheaper option. And that consumes a lot of water unnecessarily. You compare their water usage to a typical hospital, they're using almost double the amount of, what a hospital uses. So that's a significant concern for us. So some of the tips that, we offer customers, and I'm just giving a quick list, and I'll go through a couple of those. Smart irrigation systems, that I would say that's the top one. You have these new irrigation timers that can connect to your Wi-Fi system. They'll also connect to local weather stations so that they can adjust your irrigation systems accordingly. It can predict rain that's going to occur or rain that has occurred, and it'll shut itself off. Also, rain sensors, that's an important component to all of that. Another thing we say is water less often. Grass needs to be stressed. It encourages deeper root growth, and it encourages a healthier lawn. We encourage the use of EPA WaterSense products, whether it's faucet aerators or shower head water restrictors. Another thing that we encourage is shortening your shower time to have savings, fixing leaks, shutting off the tap when you're brushing your teeth. This is something I'm guilty of. Again, some of these are pretty straightforward, fully loading your washing machine before running it, keeping your plants moist with mulch. That prevents the plants from having to use as much water. Also going to a car wash. A lot of these car washes recycle water, so you will have savings from that. Anyway, these are what the savings can result in. Reducing your shower times to less than 5 minutes can save 1,000 gallons a month. If you shut off your faucet, you can save up to 200 gallons a month. And fixing leaky faucets, something as simple as that can result in 1,600 gallons a year in savings. Collectively across the United States, if people did that, that would result in over 1 trillion gallons of water that would be saved. Another thing that we say to reduce that peak demand that occurs overnight, adjusting the time on your automatic sprinkler systems. Instead of having it run between midnight to 6 a.m., adjust the time between 9 p.m. to midnight. That'll help shave the peak, and also the water that's being pumped out during that time of 9 to midnight will have more pressure, so that's more beneficial. Another thing, odd even, that's something that's encouraged everywhere. Very simple concept. If you have an odd numbered house, pump on those particular days. If you have an even number, same thing. So that's something that we do push for our residents. Two programs we developed that have been very successful, they fall under the banner of the WaterWise programs. One is known as a WaterWise Checkup, where we do one-on-one consultations with residents. Another is the WaterWise Club, where we offer account credits. So with the WaterWise checkups, again, it's a one-on-one consultation we'll do with customers. We'll go to their home. We'll identify points of water use in their house. We'll show them previous water usage bills so that they can see how much water they use. And we give them a roadmap to savings. To date, we've had around 52 customers partake in this. But the great thing is, collectively, they have saved 21% on their water usage year over year. So it does work. The other program is the WaterWise Club, where we offer account credits for up to $50 for the purchase of, EPA water sense devices, rain sensors, irrigation timers, faucet aerators. That has shown significant savings as well. We've had 175 customers sign up, and they've collectively saved 27,000 gallons, year over year on average. This is just a picture of a rain sensor. This is kind of outdated, but the thing I would say with a rain sensor is you want to make sure that you have a professional install it, because it needs to collect the rain in order for it to work properly. Sometimes you see these things over awnings, and it's not going to work if it doesn't have access to the sky. Low flow shower heads, that's another EPA water sense device that can have savings. The faucet aerators, the concept with that is you put it right under your faucet. It'll kind of combine some air with the water to provide savings with that. And these all result in significant savings with water. And the thing that we say to our residents is that water saved is money that's coming back into your pocket, which is always helpful. So anyway, as far as the Suffolk County Water Authority, we began an aggressive approach in 2016. That WaterWise program started in 2016, and we focused our efforts on the east end of Long Island primarily because that area only has fresh water available at shallow depths. That is the most sensitive area to us in terms of water quality impacts, so we targeted that area. And some of our top users are found there because, this is where the Hamptons are located. You have a lot of mansions. So we did a lot of things. We identified the top 100 users in that area. We mailed letters to them. We utilized geographic information systems so that we could map the locations of the users to see if they were clustered in particular areas so that we could, target them. We installed smart meters. So not only could we see their water usage, we could see hourly usage. So we could see what particular times. And based on the patterns, is it a geothermal system? Is it the irrigation that's creating that demand? We also followed up the top customer mailings with the rest of the customers on the East End. We did phone calls, and something recently that we did that is having a significant impact is conservation-oriented pricing. That's something that we did not have enacted in our history. We actually got that in place in 2019. And the idea is this, is that, we have a base rate for water usage. Anyone that's below approximately 78,000 gallons of water usage per quarter, they'll have a standard rate, which is around, $1.51 per 100 cubic feet of water usage. But once you exceed that amount, you now go into a tiered rate, which is slightly higher. And, and the concept behind that is that, that should encourage people to find ways to reduce their water usage to save money on their water bills. And, the benefit of that is protecting the aquifer. And another thing we have that's been pretty successful is our education center. We actually have an education center located in Hauppauge, the town of Hauppauge. And there we actually have displays on the aquifer, displays on our well fields. We talk about conservation, not only to students, but also to civic groups. We give them a tour of the system. So it's a great way that we've, been able to educate the public. The other aspect of our public education and outreach is an ongoing traveling program that we have known as Water Talk. We will go town to town and basically answer any question. We talk about water testing, water quality, any local infrastructure projects, anything they heard about the news. We offer water saving tips. We've done a total of 18 of these, very successful. And, we'll continue to do that in the future. We also take part in green events, at local colleges or universities where we'll set up booths and we'll educate people on conserving water. We also give away stainless steel water bottles and reusable bags, something that, comes in handy with the plastic bag ban in New York. So that's been pretty successful for us as well. I mentioned LICAP before. I said that, Long Island has over 50 different water districts. So we needed a unified approach to dealing with the quantity and quality issues on Long Island. Our aquifer doesn't know political boundaries. So the Long Island Commission for Aquifer Protection was a partnership that was put in place to address a lot of these concerns. And it's made up of various entities, including water suppliers, regulatory officials, citizen groups, and it was created in 2013. Now, with the creation of LICAP, we've come out with a lot of great initiatives. We have an annual State of the Aquifer report that we publish. You can go onto the website to see that. We have a groundwater resource management plan, which gives us a roadmap to actions, both short-term and long-term, that we're currently, enacting and addressing point by point. So anyway, we have a network on Long Island of 1,300 wells. I said already that, Suffolk County Water Authority has 600 approximately. So this is just a map showing all the wells on Long Island, not just for our supply area, but for all the water districts. So it's important that we all work together to address any concerns. So with the LICAP program, we've done a lot of great initiatives in terms of conservation. One initiative that I just wanted to mention was a smart sprinkler system lottery. About 2 years ago, we picked several towns on Long Island, and we held lotteries where we would give away smart controllers to residents. This is actually an advertisement that was placed in the local papers, advertising this program. We held it in 4 different towns across Long Island. Those were Greenport, Long Beach, Great Neck, and Sayville. That's where those lotteries were held. We had forms available online on the LICAP website that residents could fill out. We also encourage residents to fill out a pledge to conserve water. That way we get them a little bit more engaged. This is actually a picture from one of the lotteries, where residents would show up and we would have the smart sprinklers there. But the great part about it is that for the residents that install those systems, they agree to be monitored. And what we saw with these smart sprinkler systems was significant savings. In Long Beach alone, 17% savings. Great Neck, 25% savings. And this is in total water usage, year over year. Sayville, 5%. But collectively, there was a 12.5% reduction in water usage. So these are significant savings that were accounted with these smart sprinkler systems. Another great program through LICAP on another website that we established through LICAP's outreach is OurWaterOurLives.com. It takes a lot of these water-saving techniques that we learned. We put it into one central website. We also have an online pledge that people can take part in. This has been great. We blasted this throughout social media. We've had, close to 20 million impressions across social media with this. Throughout the pledges that we've done on the website, we've had over 3,500 people take part in the pledge. I encourage all of you to visit that website. So these are just some of the programs that we've done, both individually as a water system and collectively amongst other water suppliers. And with that said, thank you, and I'll take any questions.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Ty. And just a couple of thoughts right off the bat here from my end. I think the first one is I do a lot of work on kind of the electricity sector, and it's amazing to see how similar water is when it comes to usage and, the peaks and trying to shave those and things like that. There's a lot of things that are relatable to the electricity system as well, so that was interesting. And I didn't know much about Long Island's water system, to be honest, so this was a really enlightening presentation because you hear about it a lot, so thank you very much for that. First question we have here is about, you mentioned irrigation as being the largest, use of water on Long Island. Is that the largest use for most households down there as well? And for folks who don't irrigate their lawns, what is generally the largest water use in their home?
For Long Island, irrigation is the single largest use among our residents, that by large. For people who don't have irrigation systems, it'll probably be, just regular use, showers or laundry, those are things that would consume a lot of water. But, by and large, that indoor water use, at least for us, it's not the biggest concern. I said before that, we have a network of 600 wells. And basically to meet, those needs, which you find in the wintertime, we only need 1/3 of the wells. So, we have that pretty much accounted for.
Mm-hmm. And that actually brings up another question here is when you see items on store shelves like shower heads and faucets and things like that, they carry the WaterSense logo. For big appliances like dishwashers and washing machines, are there WaterSense labels for those, or are there any ways to tell the water efficiency of those in addition to energy efficiency?
That question, has come up before. Sometimes it may show, water efficiency. I have personally not seen any dishwashers. I could be wrong, but I have not seen, dishwashers or larger items that have the EPA water sense. A lot of times you see it for the faucet aerators, the, low flow shower heads and things of that nature. Sometimes, toilets, they'll mention the efficiency with those, but it's possible you will see that in certain instances, but not all.
Okay. And this next question kind of follows up on that, and this is one that we get on a lot of these, is when we mention a federal program. So, the WaterSense program is still there. There's been a lot of regulatory changes in various areas coming from this administration at EPA. Have you seen any changes to WaterSense, or has it stayed pretty constant for the past couple of years?
It stayed pretty constant for the past couple of years. The WaterSense program, I think it's because of it's straightforward. I mean, there's certain items that are designated as that. You see it in stores, people purchase it. So we have not seen any issues. The only change that I've seen was the LICAP initiative that I've mentioned several times. We used to be more involved with the EPA. They would come. We've done presentations to them. That involvement has somewhat waned a little bit. Again, I'm not sure if that's due in part to the changes in politics, but that's the only thing I've noticed.
Okay. So another question here regarding irrigation. Are there any rebate programs or anything for switching to a type of lawn or scenery or shrubbery that doesn't need irrigation, similar to what there are in places like California or Arizona?
No, there's nothing in place to, go with, let's say, xeriscaping. We encourage a lot of these things. We encourage use of rain gardens. We encourage the use of, having more ornamental plants, things of that nature. But that's more of a voluntary thing. A lot of these programs that we do push, it's voluntary.
Mm-hmm. And a question here regarding the conservation pricing, and it's a two-parter, is the first part is, since it's been implemented, it's been a short time, but have you seen some good results with that, or is it kind of like, I'll use a baseball analogy, this is a New York State webinar, so I'll be careful here. Certain teams see the luxury tax in their salary cap, and they just have the resources to not care about it. Have you seen that price signal does make a difference for large users? And are there other water authorities that have implemented similar measures?
To answer the first part, I have seen changes, and again, what I'm offering is more anecdotal, and the changes I've seen is in the number of requests that have come in for the WaterWise programs, for the account credits for the purchase of the smart irrigation controllers or the rain sensors. The program started last year with our conservation, pricing, and we saw some things come in, but more recently, our board just had another rate increase that occurred. Our base rate did not change. What changed was that conservation rate. It went slightly higher. And based on what I've seen, the number of requests have increased. But the fact is that some of the more affluent residents, they may not be as concerned. But I would say from the local community, we've seen that change. And the second part, that skips me. Can you mention that second question again, Brendan?
Oh, yeah, no problem. Are there other water authorities that have implemented similar measures or that are studying those?
Yes. I would say about half of the water suppliers on Long Island have done some measure like that with conservation-oriented pricing, or they've encouraged other things. To give an example, Roslyn Water District, they have a Shave the 2-minute campaign where they're asking all their residents to just, reduce the irrigation times by 2 minutes. It seems like a small amount, but that can result in collective savings of hundreds of thousands of gallons. So they all have some unique program, but by and large, a lot of water suppliers in Long Island do conservation-oriented pricing.
Mm-hmm. So a couple questions here have come in regarding folks that are on wells, probably mainly in upstate New York here. A lot of folks have their own private wells. Do you have any thoughts about what they can do or any reasons why it's important to work with conservation measures when you're on your own well?
Yeah, energy savings. You know, the big thing, you know, that goes hand in hand with water use is energy consumption. You know, pumps use a lot of energy. So just to give it an analogy, the average home uses about 5 kilowatts of power. Our average well pump, you know, will probably use about 30 kilowatts. You know, collectively, the wells on our island are using enough power for, like, you know, a large, you know, power plant. I mean, it's an incredible amount of energy that's being used. So, you know, for a private resident, you know, the savings you're going to see is in a reduction in energy costs. You are reducing your carbon footprint. And I think that's an important component of what we're doing here. You know, not only protecting the aquifer, but also reducing our carbon footprint.
Mm-hmm. And to take that one step further with the climate analogy there is, you know, the less energy you use, if you're looking at a renewable energy system like solar or batteries or anything like that, the less energy you use overall, the smaller a system you can use, which saves you money in that transition as well.
Yes,
so,
I completely agree.
Another question that came in here was about the conservation plan. Do all water authorities have to have a conservation plan, or do you know, if they don't, do you know of other ones in the state that do?
I can only speak about Long Island. All water suppliers on Long Island have to have a conservation plan. I mean, that's mandated by the DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation. They require that, you know, we have the annual plan that we have to submit to them, and then every year we have to provide an update on what measures that we've done in terms of, you know, short-term goals. You know, have we changed any of our long-term goals, and what savings have we seen as a result?
Mm-hmm. And the next question here is regards to water recycling and reuse. Do you have any statistics on, you know, kind of gray water programs, or, you know, kind of what percentage of facilities have that, or water that might be reused water?
Sure. You know, the gray water reuse, that's actually something that's just starting to happen on Long Island. You know, there's a lot of challenges, I would say, regulatory hurdles. You know, they've attempted this. There's a big project they did in Riverhead. I believe it's the Indian Island Golf Course, where they're using reused water from sewage treatment plants, you know, that have been treated to a certain extent, and they're using it to irrigate, you know, a golf course. And, you know, that's been relatively successful, but there are, you know, regulatory hurdles you have to get past. I mean, it not only has to be approved by the DEC, the Department of Health has to approve it, you know, and, you know, unfortunately, I don't think there's been like a clear roadmap. I know working with the DEC, they've come up with a roadmap to that. There's still work that needs to be done from the Department of Health side to kind of address some of these concerns. So these are great ideas, but there's still things that are being worked through. There's an organization known as the Long Island Nitrogen Action Plan that, you know, that was created through the state. And they've been working on these programs, and I've been involved to a certain extent. And, you know, hopefully once we get past these regulatory hurdles, you know, we'll see more gray water reuse taking place on Long Island.
Mm-hmm. So let's see, I'm just going through the questions here. Are there any special requirements for swimming pools, or do you have any issues with swimming pool use, probably involving leaking, or where the water comes from to fill those?
No issues with that. I would only say that, you know, with the introduction of these newer meters that we have that we can monitor usage, you know, we can identify where, you know, a resident may have a leak, you know, and you know, hopefully, you know, bring it to their attention before they get, you know, an unusually high bill. But as far as, you know, filling up swimming pools, you know, there's no issues as far as that goes here.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any conservation tips for pool owners so they don't have to keep filling it all the time?
Conservation tips, you know, just make sure that you constantly monitor it. That's not something that we really focused on, to be honest with you, you know, with swimming pools. It's more about the indoor water use and, you know, irrigation, because that's where we see like the biggest water usage come from. So, you know, aside from just basic things like maintaining, you know, your pool chemistry, you know, so that you don't have to keep refilling it, that's where I'd leave it at.
Mm-hmm. So another question here is kind of about industry. So New York is encouraging a lot of high-tech industries like data centers to relocate to the state. Are there any water use concerns when it comes to cooling for kind of high-tech industry, data centers and supercomputing and stuff like that?
Well, at this point, no, we have not seen that, but, any water-intensive industry, or let's just say any industry that comes in, they first need to reach out to their local water utility just to see if there is going to be enough water available in that region. That's not always a guarantee, and when that occurs, we will, address certain comments to them, and try to encourage them to enact any conservation measures that can take place. But right now, we haven't seen any of those issues, but, we constantly address our concerns, even with new developments. Water availability is not always a guarantee, when it comes to certain practices.
Mm-hmm. So with that, we've reached the end of the questions here. If anybody has a final question, please type it into the chat box. Ty, do you have any final thoughts for the folks out there?
Aside from, staying safe, hopefully, we can all make it through in one piece. You can always reach me. My email, it's tfuller@sewa.com. I encourage anybody that's interested in some of the initiatives we're doing, look up LICAP, liaquifercommission.com. We have a lot of great programs coming underway with that. That's something that's open to the public. Obviously, we'll probably be doing virtual meetings, in the short term. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you once again for reaching out to me. This was great. I had a lot of fun, and stay safe, everybody.
Yeah, and I just want to, echo from before my thanks for you being able to do this on short notice and let everybody know. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you stay safe and that, you're healthy and we're all going to get through this together. And that being said, next week is Earth Week. Think about something you can do for it proactively, whether it's finding a way to reduce some waste, incorporating some of these tips, planting a tree if you have a backyard, or taking part in some of the stuff that we have here. So our next webinar is going to be, Maze is going to be on heat pumps and renewable heating and cooling. So make sure to be on the lookout for that. And with that, I want to say thank you to everybody, and thank you especially to Ty. Thanks a lot and stay safe. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.